Dear Aunt Flo is a podcast about bad periods, and I'm your host, Elisa Michelle. Every month, we'll dive deep into my own vaginal monologues as I discuss my journey with endometriosis and share stories that we wish someone would have warned us about sooner. I am your new period BFF, so let's get comfortable speaking about our cycles. Welcome back to another episode of Dear Aunt Flo. Last episode, we started talking about my journey with endometriosis. And I forgot to mention a couple things, so I'm going to highlight that in this episode and just give a little more detail about what I'm currently experiencing. But first, you know what we got to start with, a letter to Dear Aunt Flo. So, Dear Aunt Flo, I wonder what life would be like if people listened when I told them about you the first time. Would you feel seen and maybe stopped acting out so much? This new news got me a little shook, not gonna lie. So I hope that you're kind to me as we navigate things together. Sincerely fed up, Elisa Michelle. Okay, let's get into today's episode. First, I want to circle back to those things that I forgot to highlight. I mentioned that I had a surgery from an ultrasound where they found one polyp. Well, in that surgery, they actually took out 6. So that's just to say that sometimes these tests and screenings don't catch it all. And they don't know until they go in and see the situation for themselves. So yeah, I had 6 polyps removed from my uterus, not 1. And that was what was causing all the excessive bleeding. And yeah, thank God for that. It's funny because you go in for your pap smear and your annual checkup, and you're telling these doctors I'm experiencing all this inflammation and bloating, and it feels like there's something sitting on top of my uterus. At least that's what I do. I go into as much detail as I can now because every detail counts. So I'm telling them this, and they're like, "Oh, really? Okay." And they jot it down in their little notepad, and then they say, "Okay, I'm just going to take my 2 fingers and I'm just going to stick it in there and move it around. If you feel uncomfortable, let me know." And they go in and they move it around, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't feel anything out of place or out of order. So you're fine, you're good, you're healthy. Get dressed and I'll see you out there." And I'm like, "Hello? Maybe we should dig a little deeper, find out something from a screening or a test or, an MRI. More on that later." Anyway, make it make sense, y'all. I really cannot stress enough to advocate for yourself because it's wild out here in these doctor streets. Okay, so let's get back into the rest of my story. I wanted to circle back on birth control. I took it for about a year and a half because I didn't stop until about 2021. I started in 2020 and I stopped mid 2021. And I stopped because I felt that it was causing a lot of issues with my digestive system. It was affecting my libido. It was affecting my attitude. And most importantly, it was affecting my mental health. I could see a clear difference. It was night and day. I will never forget. For a month, I just did not want to get out of bed. I didn't want to start the day. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to just be active and around people. And now I am an introvert, but this was a level that it was dark, and I did not like it. And I was like, I've never felt like this before, and it has to be all of these hormones that are going into my body causing me to feel this way, because there's just no way that like a month ago I was okay and now all of a sudden I'm just like a shell of a person. So I was like, at that point I was like, nope, I can't do this anymore. So I cut the birth control off. I finished that pack and I was like, we out, we done. And then my period was like, oh, she back. Welcome. And yeah, and then it took a while actually for my body to kind of reset itself. But oh, thank God that's done. I was also at the time trying a lot of new supplements. I've tried my Happy Flow. I was taking Vitex on the suggestions of other people, but none of those things really worked for me. Ultimately, during my cycle, because the pain was so intense, I was having to take like loads of ibuprofen and Tylenol. Like I would go through bottles every other month because I was every 4 hours knocking them back. Like, because the pain was so intense, the inflammation was so intense. And if I didn't keep it up every 4 hours, it would hit me so hard that it would take hours for any type of pain medication to kick in and start working. And so if I didn't stay on top of it, I was down and out. It was that bad. And I was like, this can't be healthy, taking all of these pills for like a week straight and going through bottles every other cycle. Like that's a lot of freaking stuff in your system. And I felt like it was also messing with my digestive system and my stomach. And I was like, nope. But luckily, I had a new doctor, and she suggested that I try naproxen, which is like I think it's like a heavy duty Advil. Don't quote me on that. I forget. I can look at the bottle and find out because it says it on the bottle. But I started taking naproxen, so that knocked me down to like 1 to 2 pills a day during my cycle. And that was top notch because I would take it and it would take like almost 2 hours to kick in, but it lasted for like 8 hours. And so I could get through a day much better than I could off of the thousands of pills I was taking before. So yeah, I no longer take naproxen, and that's only because I felt like it was messing up my stomach lining too. And I wasn't even taking that much, so I don't understand how cramping works, but my pelvis was always on fire, and I don't know if it was the naproxen or if it was just so much contractual things happening in there that my stomach was just overworked and tired and sore. But it was like painful to the touch. So I was like, no mas. We have to find other healthier, natural ways to cope with this, because I feel like I am being more detrimental to my body than I want to be. So I embarked on a juicing cleanse. This was the end of 2022. The last week of December, I was like, I'm going to do a 7-day juice cleanse, and it's going to reset my body, reset my gut health, and we're just going to go into 2023 like just new and on fire. Like, oh, I was so excited. And I did the juice cleanse, and I ended up going through the month of January. So I did the last week of December, and then I was like, we're going to keep this going. And I went all the way through January as well. But I also, within January, I started incorporating raw fruits and veggies and some like nuts and grains, which I read later that I probably should not have done that, the nuts and grains, but whatever, it happened. So I think the only thing that got me through that month was God, because literally you're just juicing, you're just drinking juice, and it's full of fruits and veggies and great stuff, but ultimately you're not getting everything that you probably need. But he was sustaining me because I still had energy. I was still pretty like clear-headed. I wasn't like starving, so I didn't feel hungry all the time. And yeah, I got through that month. But I also again started incorporating like the raw fruits and veggies and smoothies. Um, and I was still working, planning a wedding, and just like, trying to survive. So yeah. One good thing I did notice from that was that my cycle came that February, and it was like tolerable. And this is like, listen, come here. When I tell you that my cycle is pure hell every month, for it to be tolerable is like a dream. It's like, I could breathe. I could do stuff. Like, it was my birthday month, and it came like my birthday week, which it always does, which it's probably going to do next month, or this month. Actually, when you guys hear this, it'll be past my birthday. So I will give like maybe a bonus episode on how my cycle was this month. But anyway, yeah, it was like a good cycle, like a good week, and I was like, oh, maybe this juicing thing works. But ultimately, it wasn't sustainable for me, only because, one, hella expensive to buy produce every single week, because really you're pretty much shopping either twice a week or once a week at the minimum, because you buy all this produce and it makes like 3 jars of juice. So, and you have to drink those 3 jars in a day, or at least 2 if you're really doing it. I was like taking it down to like 1 jar a day, and it's only like a 32-ounce jar, so it's not a lot. So I was losing a lot of weight, and I'm already pretty small framed. So it just wasn't sustainable for me. And the results. So, more TMI, but I think it was I don't know if it was the juice. I think it was the smoothies, but they gave me the most horrendous gas I've ever experienced in my life. And I couldn't take it. Like, I would have a smoothie and it would be so good. Oh my goodness, my smoothies were so good. But it gave me the worst gas. And it's like I'm eating all of these good things, all of these fruits and vegetables, and like just good stuff, like really good gut healthy things. And then just like releasing the most foul gas. I just, it's so embarrassing to even talk about, but it's more embarrassing to live through. So I would just have to like keep my distance around the house, like around if I was out in public or at work. Like it was like almost inescapable, and it didn't matter what I did. It's just anytime I had gas, it was like bad. And the refeeding process was trash. Like trying to incorporate food back into your diet just like messes your digestive system up all over again. So like you have to take juicing and cleanses with like a grain of salt, because they're not always the best idea or the best course of action for you. So keep that in mind. Do your research when looking up juices and cleanses. But I do think juicing is a really good thing for you to have in addition to your normal food diet. So yeah, just keep that in mind. That's all I'm going to say on that. And then last year, I kicked it up a notch. I tried acupuncture. Well, I had been trying acupuncture, but the place that I was going to was bad. It was like really cold and like dark and dreary inside, and I didn't like it. So I stopped, but I started back up again last year, 2023. And my cousin referred me to a place that was like around the corner from my apartment. And I really liked the guy, and he had like this nice little studio space, and he gave me like lessons on like Chinese herbs, and he talked about my spleen qi and how it was off because I was like fatigued, and my tongue was white, and I had bite marks on the sides of my tongue because my tongue was so expanded because my spleen qi was off. So your spleen plays a huge role in like your vitality, and clearly mine was struggling. So so I was doing acupuncture for like 8 months, and I don't know if it was really helping my cycle, but it was nice to have like a little self-care day for myself. And I only stopped because it was getting way too expensive and it wasn't under my insurance. So I had to cut ties with that, unfortunately. But I hope to get back into it. I just need to find something that's under my insurance. Anyway, so I started exercising on a semi-daily basis. And that really kind of helped with just getting my body moving and not so sedentary. Like, I sit a lot for what I do. I'm an illustrator, so when I'm drawing, I'm sitting, or I'm on my computer, like designing something, I'm sitting. At work, I'll be sitting. Like, I was just always sitting. And so I was like, I need to move. Plus, I was getting married, and I was like, I want to be able to, like, look good in my dress and be toned. And I had goals of getting thick, okay? But in order to get thick, you got to eat. So I had to do better, which I'm still working on that. So yeah, and then of course the cramping and the pain and the butt cramping, got worse. And it's still to this day the thing that I dread the most every month are butt cramps. Is butt cramps? Whatever, grammar police. So anyway, today, in the year of our Lord 2024, I had an MRI done earlier this month, and I'm going to drink some tea because, yeah. Okay, that's better. So I had an MRI done earlier this month as a result of an ultrasound that I had last year, the end of last year. And basically, I had endometriosis all over my uterus. I have cysts on my ovary. I have fibroids. And to top it all off, like you guys know, I've been talking about my digestive issues. Well, that's because the scar tissue that is building up inside of my body right now has tethered itself to my rectum. So I have a retroverted uterus, which means my uterus is tilted backwards. And so as a result, all of this scar tissue that is being built up from my painful cycles, my blood, the endometriosis, which is growing outside and everywhere in between of where it's supposed to be, has now connected to my rectum, and that is causing all of my digestive issues. I don't know what caused it. I was given no explanation as to what caused this. But I'm pissed because I feel that had someone listened to me tell them about all of the things that I was feeling, how things feel like they're sitting on my uterus, or how I have to push myself to use the bathroom, how much constipation I went through, how, all of these different symptoms, they add up to things. And to think that nobody suggested to get this girl an MRI to get checked out. All they wanted to do was stick their 2 little fingers up inside my vagina, move it around, and tell me that nothing was wrong without digging deeper into the root of the cause. Ugh. I just think if I had the MRI sooner, like a year or 2 ago, all of this could have been avoided. And now I'm in this situation where I'm faced with, at least from the one opinion that I got from a doctor, I am faced with this, have a bunch of kids now, before it's too late, or before you have trouble having kids, and then you can just have a hysterectomy. And I'm like, that can't be my only course of action. That can't be my only option. And it's disheartening to know that there's doctors out there that don't care about anything other than the bottom line. I was given that news, and then I was told, or, you could just go on birth control to, balance your hormones out. And I'm like, what is that going to do for the tethering? What is that going to do for all the scar tissue that's inside of me? What problems am I going to have if I do try to get pregnant? No one went over all the details. No one asks you or tells you what questions that you need to ask in order to get answers. They're just like, do you have questions? And I'm like, I'm sure that I do, but I don't even know what I'm supposed to ask you. You're supposed to sit here and give me a comprehensive overall idea of what is happening, why it's happening, what I could do to alleviate the situation, aside from the drastic have kids or have a hysterectomy and never have kids. And that to me just it's not right. And I feel for the women who are going through things like this and are told to grin and bear it, or told to take these drugs, or told to just forget any dreams that you had of living a normal life, quote unquote. This is it. This is all you can do. And I'm just I don't accept that. So I will always push for advocacy. I will always push for you to find someone who will fight for you if you can't fight for yourself, if your body is not fighting for itself. Find someone who will fight for the both of you, because you deserve to have a positive outcome. You deserve to not be dismissed. You deserve to be heard. You deserve good things in your life. And don't back down. Get the answers that you need. Get checked out. Get the tests. Get the screenings. Get new doctors until you find one who will get you what you need. All right, guys. Are we ready for today's affirmation? I know I am. You're welcome to recite it with me after I say it, and take it with you into your day, week, month, year, whatever the case. I am healed. I am free. I know God is watching over me. So say it with me. I am healed. I am free. I know God is watching over me. I love you. I see you. I hear you. And I will see you and hear you in the next episode. Peace.